What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you checking in. All right, let's go over some new additions that the Raiders added just this past weekend. Obviously, rookie mini camp is in the books, and as soon as that ended, they kind of went back to the drawing board and they waived some players. They released a player, but they also added some more competition. And there is actually a player on this list of the new players that they added to this roster that I'm very surprised. I'm surprised why either he wasn't potentially drafted in the 7th round at the very tail end of the draft or immediately picked up as an undrafted free agent. And so I might be missing something. I tried to do a ton of research, but based on the film and just really some of his statistics in college, I'm surprised that someone at least didn't pull the trigger a lot earlier than we did this past week. And so I definitely want to go over all the players that we waived and released, but at the same time, the players that we added to this roster. And so if you can, before I get into it, if you can, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications. My next giveaway is at 5,000 subscribers. So if you want to be included, hit that sub button. Before we get completely into it, I do want a reminder, only a few days left. If you're in the SoCal area, Bakersfield, California, Saturday, May 17th, it's the Raider Nation Summer Kickoff. Jeremy Chin's going to be there. You can have opportunity to get something signed, kind of do a meet and greet with him, but a massive portion of this Raider fan base is going to be rocking in Bakersfield. I'm going to be there with a couple other guys. We're going to have a booth. So if you do show up, let me know in the comment section. I'll have a banner that has my logo on it. Come check me out. If you are subscribed to the channel, we'll be doing a bunch of giveaways for our subscribers. So definitely come check us out. If you want more information, go to Raiders Crusaders on IG. There's tickets still available. So just let me know in the comment section down below if you're rolling. So I'm gonna kind of go back up to the big screen, but we're all kind of waiting. I'm gonna drop this video Wednesday afternoon, so the schedule release is probably gonna hit by the time either you're watching this or maybe a little bit after. But the schedule release is gonna be exciting, and I'm definitely gonna drop a video on that because there's definitely a specific way that I dissect the schedule, and there's multiple things that I take into consideration when I look at the schedule just to determine just how hard or easy this schedule is for us for the 2025 season. And so make sure you hit that notification so you know when I drop that video. So now let's get into all the players that we waived, released, and the players that we picked up. And so as you can see on the screen, the players, I'm not going to, at the very top, you see the players that we signed, but I'm going to more look at the players that we waived, and I'll get into the rest of them. But the first one, the waived players, Dominique Boyd, really didn't know much about the kid. And so not surprising given the fact that we did draft 2 offensive linemen. And so he's waived. And next you have Amari Burney. Now there's so many question marks in this linebacker room, and I'm going to touch on it more with one of the players that we actually just signed a few days ago. And so Amari Burney, he is no longer on this roster. Not surprising. I thought Amari Burney, I'm a big Florida fan, Florida Gators fan. And so when we brought on Amari Burney, I thought great special teams player. I think he can contribute, especially with the new kickoff rules, but I never really saw him as an actual starter. I thought he was a little undersized in order to be a linebacker in the National Football League, but we went ahead and moved on from him. Matthew Butler, he gets waived. Again, not surprising. He's been on this team for quite a while. He's never really moved the needle, and we drafted 2 interior defensive linemen. So one had to go. Matthew Butler is no longer on this roster. Tyreek McAllister, he's labeled as a receiver. He did a pretty good job in last year's preseason games, but really never had much of an impact last season. But because he is labeled a receiver, again, we drafted 2 receivers. And if you look at the trend of the receivers that we're bringing in, a lot of taller receivers, 6'1" plus. Tyreek McAllister really doesn't hit the needle on that. So we went ahead and moved on with him. Next is Brandon Smith. Sorry, my head's cutting it off a little bit. Another linebacker. Honestly, I really didn't know who that kid was. Didn't even recognize his name, but he's no longer on this list. And the one at the very bottom that we released is Christian Wilkerson. Again, not surprising. Christian Wilkerson got opportunities last year because of a lot of the injuries that we had in the receiver room. The injuries plagued us nonstop last year. And so he got an opportunity, but didn't make much of it. And so we did draft 2 receivers. We brought on more names. So at the end of the day, not surprising that Christian Wilkerson is no longer on this roster. That kind of sums up the players that we waived as well as the players that we released. And now let's jump into the players that we actually brought on. And again, there's one player that I either you guys help me out, give me a little more information if I'm missing something, but there's definitely a player on here that I'm kind of surprised that no one jumped on the opportunity of bringing him in sooner than we did. But I'm going to kind of go down the line. You guys see the players up on the screen. But the first one I want to touch on is Ketron Jackson. Okay, I got some notes on all these players, but Ketron Jackson, 6'3", 205 pounds. When you watch the game film, when you watch his film, he does have the ability to kind of take the top off the defense. He's got a little bit of speed on him. Anytime you see him one-on-one in man coverage or he's isolated against a corner, maybe playing cover 3, even if that corner is playing off of him a little bit, he does have the ability to kind of get on top of that corner and create some separation. But the more and more I watched him, you can just tell that he doesn't really catch the ball naturally. When the ball is kind of placed over his shoulder perfectly, he kind of goes out and he tries to grab at it. He grabs at the football. And even when you watch some of his film, and again, there's not a lot of it out there because he didn't have too many catches. I think he ended his senior season at Baylor with like 20 plus catches, but he did average, I think, about 21 and a half yards per catch, but he didn't finish the season with too many yards. And so, but when you watch his game film, there are some flashes, some signs that he can find the soft spots in a zone type coverage. And so he may be able to navigate well when going against zone type of coverage. But again, I did see his ability to kind of take the top off the defense, but I just don't think his hands are very good. Again, he grabs at the football a lot. So I can see maybe he became an undrafted free agent, mainly because maybe he has a lot of drops. And so again, I don't know that for a fact. It's just based on just the limited of game film that I was able to see out of him. So that's Ketron Jackson, the next one. And look, we picked up Jaylen Smith. Jaylen Smith, he was with us in 2023. I don't believe he played last season. It's just another addition to this linebacker room. I don't think that there's a good chance he may not even make the team. But here's the thing. I'm not going to say whether or not Jaylen Smith is going to be good or not. We have nothing but question marks in this linebacker room, whether it be Devin White. Which Devin White are we going to get? The Devin White of 4 or 5 years ago, or the Devin White that was released by the Eagles? You got a Landon Roberts. We signed him for a 1-year, $3 million deal. A lot of question marks. Not saying that he's not going to pan out to be good, because you could look at Robert Spillane. Robert Spillane was kind of in that same situation, and obviously Robert Spillane came in and he did well with us. And so, but then you got Tommy Eichenberg. We really don't know what we have out of him. Amari Gaynor, undrafted free agent last year. I was extremely high on Amari Gaynor last year, but again, a lot of question marks. We just released Amari Burney. So the question is just who is really going to be that final piece, the final starters on this roster going into week 1. And so I'm not going to sit there and say Jaylen Smith isn't going to start or he's not going to do anything because of the lack of production over the last few years. But here's the thing is he didn't play last year. And so it's extremely hard for a player to sit out an entire year and then actually think he's going to produce coming in. So again, we bring on Jaylen Smith, more competition. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen with this linebacker room, because at the end of the day, it feels like we're getting nothing but discount players for competition. So I hope that Johnspytek, Pete Carroll, man, I'm going to trust the process with them. Let's hope they know what the hell they're doing, and we find ourselves in a good spot with our linebackers. And now, look, we have a very strong defensive front, defensive line, which is great. That helps out linebackers. They can take on the double teams. But a lot of times when running backs find that cutback lane and that linebacker that's supposed to be there on the cutback does not get there in time, or just doesn't have the ability to scrape down the line of scrimmage and get there, then if we find ourselves where the linebackers are the weakest link and we are now not being able to stop the run on a consistent basis because of these linebackers, that's where I'm going to be pissed off, because we had plenty of opportunity, whether it be in free agency or even in the draft, because we waited till the 7th round to address the linebacker room. We had ample opportunity in offseason, and we also have enough salary cap to go out and potentially get somebody. If the linebackers end up being the weakest link and they actually hurt us throughout the season, that's where I'm going to be pissed off at Spytek and Pete Carroll for not addressing it. They have no excuse to not address it moving forward. And so, again, let me know what your thoughts are on Jaylen Smith, and what do you think of the addition moving forward. And then next up, we have Keshan Smith, 6'1", 191 out of SMU. Look, I looked up his game film, and here's the thing. Nothing really special about him. Nothing really special. He's going to come in. Maybe it's a practice squad guy, just in case. Because, look, I'm not saying he is, but he kind of mirrors the same attributes that Jacoby Myers does, right? He looks like just a possession receiver. SMU, they ran a lot of screens with him, trying to get the ball in his hands in open space. He did return some kickoffs last season. And so, again, when you watch the game film, there's nothing that pops out. I think he's just an average player. Maybe he's going to be a practice squad guy. But I'd be shocked if he does make this 53-man roster. But again, just watching the game film, nothing really stands out with me. But again, just letting you know, there's going to be a player at the very end that I think definitely has a chance at chipping away at this roster, and I'm really confused as to why either he wasn't picked in the 7th round or wasn't immediately snagged as an undrafted free agent. But again, if you can't hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications, I definitely appreciate it. My next giveaway, 5,000 subscribers. So hit that sub button if you want to be included. Next one is Wesley Steiner, 6'1", 242 pounds, out of Washington State. I went and I tried to look up, try to find as much game film as I could in this guy. And if you try to find game film, I'm going to save you some time. He was strictly a special teams player. That's basically what he was at Washington State. So you're not going to find a whole lot on him. The likelihood that he makes this roster as a linebacker, I think, is going to be slim to none. And so, again, let me know if you find anything on him. But everything that I read and as I looked up on this guy, he's basically just a special teams player. And so let me know in the comment section what you think of Wesley Steiner. Next up, this guy's very interesting. You got Jonathan Sutherland. Now, he has ties to Pete Carroll. All right. He was an undrafted free agent. He was brought in by Pete Carroll when he was with Seattle. He eventually was, I believe he was either waived and then he linked up with the Giants, but he also was in the Canadian leagues as well. But here's the thing. He was at Penn State, and there's actually some decent stats that you can kind of hang your hat on a little bit if you're Jonathan Sutherland, but he was a 4-year team captain at Penn State. He played in 56 college games. He had 13 starts, I believe. It was either 13 or 14, and he had 136 tackles. There's a reason why that's a little bit important. As I watched his game film at Penn State, the things that kind of popped out on me is, one, he's a box safety. He's going to sit in the box. He's going to basically be up on that line of scrimmage and play in that run support. But also, if he drops into coverage, he's going to play that hook to curl, that flat type of routes. But they like to blitz him off the edge at Penn State. All right, so they brought pressure with him constantly, and he's an absolute ball hawk. When he goes after the ball, he flies to the football. The amount of times that I saw him blitz off the edge on one side, the ball goes away, and he's got the speed, he's got the instincts to get to the other side of the field and still make that play. And so that's one thing that I actually really liked about him. That's what kind of popped off. So, but here's the thing. I don't think he's very good in coverage. He's not going to be able to drop back and play a true free safety type. So I don't think that's kind of where his game is. So where he can potentially fight to be on this roster is maybe a very good special teams player. Again, just because he has the ability to kind of get after the football. But then you can also take into consideration with some of these guys that try to make the very last roster spot at the position they're competing for, they got to bring some sort of value as a potential starter, because if guys get hurt, you're the next man up. And so with Patrick Graham's defense and the reason why we brought in Jeremy Chinn is going to play that same type of safety up in the box, close to the line of scrimmage, a physical presence. And this is where Jonathan Sutherland can potentially be. Now, it's a very long shot for him to make the actual squad, but the physicality that he brings will at least give him somewhat an advantage. And maybe this is the reason why Pete Carroll wanted to bring him in and give him one last shot. So let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on Jonathan Sutherland. And I'm going to get to the very last player that I think has a chance at potentially chipping away at getting that final shot at in his position group. And that is Jafari Harvey, defensive end out of SMU, 6'4", 252 pounds. Just some statistics from his last season. He started all 14 games last year at SMU, 31 tackles, 15 solo, 7.5 sacks, 12 tackles for a loss, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. As I watched the game film, the things that popped out to me is he's athletic. He's very athletic. He's got good bend around the edge, and he's got the athleticism and the speed to chase the quarterback. If that quarterback gets out of the pocket, if we face mobile quarterbacks, he's got that ability to go and chase the guy down. And we do play a lot of mobile quarterbacks this year, even just in our own division. Bo Nix, Patrick Mahomes, but we're also playing guys like Caleb Williams, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels. We got guys that are mobile enough to where we need these edge rushers and maybe some athletic interior defensive linemen to get after some of these guys. And so he's got the athleticism to kind of chase guys down, and you see it on film. Now, one thing that I did see is that he doesn't necessarily have a lot of different moves in his bag, in his arsenal as a pass rusher, right? He is athletic. If he goes up against guys that offensive tackles that are a little bit slower, not as athletic. Maybe they have very slow feet. He's got the athleticism to kind of beat him around the edge, but he doesn't have that second or third move consistently enough. So I did see him kind of get jammed up and stalled out a couple times because he just doesn't have that those added moves to his arsenal. I'm not surprised he became an undrafted free agent because there are some flaws in his game without question. But based on just watching his film, could he have snuck into the 7th round? Because as an edge rushing, just the edge rushing position, it's such a sought after position. It's like the number one corner or left tackle position. You can never have enough good edge rushers. I easily could have seen him, based on this film, sneak into the 7th round. But I am a little surprised that no one actually pulled the trigger right away when the draft was done and got him as an undrafted free agent. So I tried to look and see exactly why he waited so long, and I just couldn't find it. So let me know in the comment section down below whether or not you know something on this kid that basically delayed his signing up until last weekend. So again, I don't know, maybe there's an injury that I couldn't find, or maybe some off-field issues. I'm not exactly sure. So again, let me know in the comment section if you do have any information to kind of add to that. So that kind of sums it up. Let me go back up to the big screen. But look, at the end of the day, a lot of these guys, they're not going to make the roster. But there are 2 guys that I definitely think can compete. Maybe they will find themselves solidified on the practice squad. So let me know in the comment section down below if you have anything on the guys that I just covered. But remember, Raider Nation Summer Kickoff this weekend, May 17th. Let me know in the comment section if you're going to rock out with us. But hit that notification because I am going live with my guys in the Raider War Room tonight after the schedule release. We're going to do it about 8:30 Pacific time, 11:30 Eastern. So make sure you hit that notification. So I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications. My next giveaway is at 5,000 subscribers. So if you want to be included, make sure you hit that sub button. So I appreciate you. Again, have a great rest of your day. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out of here.